Hi, Holland.
Hi, Kristen.
I am Kristen Miller, and we're here with Fort Bend Voters League and for our candidate conversations, and I want to thank you for joining us. I don't know if you're familiar with Fort Bend Voters League. We're a non-partisan organization that tries to empower and engage our voters into what's going on and meet the candidates and the issues. We try to bring civility into public discourse, so that's our motto. I want to clarify that your name is Holland Poulson, and you are running for Fort Bend ISD trustee position 7, correct?
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming.
Sure.
So what can you tell me is your biggest motivator to run for this position or to serve Fort Bend ISD, and what uniquely qualifies you for this position?
So probably my biggest motivator, not the only one, there was a couple of things that happened that made me start thinking about running a few years ago. I wasn't quite ready personally with my own children to make that commitment. But I have been in education for 25 years.
Okay.
I've spent my entire career serving students and teachers, working in the field of public education.
Okay.
My heart is there. I truly believe that the future of our community is all around what we provide right now for kids. That's what we need to have a better future for all of us. So I worked in A-Leaf ISD for 21 years. And I've done a couple of different things. I worked in the classroom. I was a classroom teacher. I was a reading interventionist. I was an instructional coach. And my last 8 years in the district, I worked for the K-6 social studies program. So
a little bit of everything.
A little bit of everything. I worked with 30 different campuses, elementary and intermediate. I developed the program, wrote curriculum, worked with lead teachers at all of the campuses to build social studies more at the elementary intermediate level. So I left that position when my own children, who were entering middle school, I have triplets, so all 3 of them were entering middle school. I decided to take some time off, help them transition, and at that time actually did a little swerve in my own career, and I became a professional development educational consultant.
Wow.
So for the last 5 years, I've been training teachers. So I provide workshops for teachers. So my children are now 15. They're at Dulles High School. And I decided this was the right time, the right opportunity to take my experience, what I have done my entire career, and apply a little bit of that into Fort Bend.
Right.
So I decided that this would be the right time to serve the Fort Bend ISD community and run for school board.
What do you think are the 3 biggest challenges right now for Fort Bend ISD, and what changes or solutions do you think would best address those challenges?
So one challenge I see is the divide in the district.
Divide in the district?
Just with the community, relationships, lack of transparency, maybe a little bit of lack of accountability. The community should have faith in their school board. The community should feel that their school board is making decisions for every single student in the district. And I think a lot of times when there's not transparency, not because of anything, and not necessarily wrongdoing, but there's just not obvious transparency, it allows people to start doubting their school board members. That creates division, and it creates the community just not having that same faith in their school board and that they're really making the right decisions for them. So I think part of that, to address that issue, is just complete transparency. Just like when I talk to my own kids, if there's something you feel like you need to hide, then that's probably not something you should be doing. I feel it's the same way with adults. If there's a sense of we can't be transparent because of X or Y or Z reasons, then we need to really rethink why we're holding that back. Why are we not sharing that with the public? The other part of that, though, looking at this as somebody who serves on the school board is a volunteer, they're serving their community. It's not their job. It's something they are taking wholeheartedly. And I truly feel that people go into a position like that because they do want to help. They do want to serve. So I think there has to be a little respect for what candidates and board members are in those positions and what they're going through with that. And the idea that we don't know everything. As a community member, we're not privy to all of the information, all of the data. And so I think there has to be a little bit of belief or hope that they do have the information they need to make the best decisions.
Is there any other challenges in particular that you see are unique to Fort
I think
Bend?
one other one that to me is readily apparent is lack of equitability in the district. Not just looking at west side or east side or north or south, but when you look at campuses, you look at data, you look at things like teacher certifications at the campuses or resources they have, whether it's athletics, fine arts, curriculum, content, teachers as resources, it's not equitable. And I don't feel that that is something that's not fixable. It's something that if we dug in and we looked at schools and we looked at what they needed and we looked at how do we provide that without excuses for it. I, as a teacher and being at a campus, I worked at a campus for 2 different campuses for 17 years. It's obvious when you walk into a campus if a campus is lacking in what maybe they need or what the campus down the street has. And I don't think that's beneficial for students. And when we look at Fort Bend ISD, we can't call Fort Bend ISD a great district unless every single school in the district is great.
Yeah, I understand that there's a wide variety of socioeconomic circumstances from campus to campus. And the achievement gap sometimes suffers from that. How would you like to see, what solutions would you like to see put into place to narrow that achievement gap?
So some of the things, one, it's possible to do. It's not something that we just say, oh, that's the way it is. It is not the way it is. When we look at subgroups of students, whether it's at a campus that's doing well overall or a campus that's struggling as a campus at the campus level, looking at specifically what is happening. What is the teacher-student ratio? Are the teachers highly qualified? What's happening with the culture at that campus? So what's happening, is there large turnover in teachers? Things that you can do to help support that is, instead of looking at what's happening at the district level, what does that campus needs? Because it may be something very different than another campus down the street needs. I did go to work at a campus that was the lowest performing campus in A-Leaf at the time. I went in, I worked there for 8 years. By the time I left, they were the 6th highest achieving campus, but it required out of the box thinking. It requires a different mode. It requires things that you may not think about. Having teachers commit to staying at a campus, giving stipends to have highly qualified teachers come over.
One size does not fit all.
That's right.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. And so, that's excellent. What involvement have you had in the community or the district in particular, and I want you to answer these all 3 separately, that put you in touch with the needs of the students, and then the needs of the parents, which probably is different than the needs of the students, and lastly, sometimes the forgotten teachers. What can you do to stay in touch with the needs of the teachers, or what should the district be doing to stay in touch with those groups?
Okay, students,
parents,
teachers, great. All right, so really before I left my full-time position in A-Leaf and I started focusing more on my own children in their middle school and high school, one of the things I've noticed with the students is my kids are very engaged in activities. So one is very focused on academics, art. One of them is in the theater program. One of them's in the dance program at the high school. And one of the things you notice as you start going to district events is you can see there that the students they're not receiving the same resources from campus to campus. So anytime you go to any event that's district-wide, it's pretty apparent that the students' needs aren't being met at the same level. When you look at campuses that don't have the same types of opportunities academically, so you look at a campus, my kids happen to go to Dulles. They're not in the math science program academy, but they go there. But they have a wealth of available opportunities for math and science because the academy is there.
Right.
Versus a campus where I've talked to some students who have gone to some of the other campuses and AP classes are not even available for them. And that needs to be addressed so that students have the opportunities they need whether it is college and career readiness or looking at CTE courses and making sure they're ready when they graduate to go into a field that they're interested in, making sure that kids around the district all have the same opportunity to get into that field that they want easily.
How can we open up communication to find out what it is our students do want and need, especially some of our older students who might have opinions on that?
Ask them, get into the schools, get the counselors into having them have the opportunity to actually get to know the kids, where they can have relationships and build relationships with them, talk to kids. I think surveys work, but surveys are a little bit of a struggle if they're done outside of the school.
Right.
So giving opportunities within school, and then making sure that the students understand what the result of that survey will be. I know whether it's students or teachers, the surveys that come out sometimes have the feel of, where does this information go? Does it go anywhere? Does it actually impact anything?
Right.
Because I've taken enough surveys in Fort Bend ISD to kind of wonder, did it make a difference? Is the time I'm putting into this going to make a change? And sometimes we don't see that. So I think we quit getting involved in that way.
Right.
So talking about,
In touch with the needs of the teachers and what might happen, what that that communication open up between the teachers and the board.
So one of the things I think a lot of teachers from the district I used to work in are now working in Fort Bend. They live out here, they're raising their families out here. They're now principals, assistant principals, classroom teachers in the district. And I feel like there's some sense of not feeling comfortable speaking out, not feeling comfortable being clear or moving forward with what do they need, because they may love their team, they may love their campus, they may love their principal, but when it comes to district level positions, it may not be as easy to share that teacher lounge talk outside of the campus in a way that actually impacts change. So I think finding ways to touch base with them, I'm not even sure I know what that would look like, but it has to be a safe place where they would feel comfortable sharing what they feel like their personal needs are. Fort Bend is growing. We need to not only hire strong, qualified teachers, we need to retain the ones we have.
Right.
If we are in a cycle of losing our strong, experienced teachers, we're going to struggle no matter what.
Absolutely.
With that.
Holland, I want to thank you so much for coming today and for taking time out of your busy schedule on this rainy day. I appreciate that, and I know voters do. And voters, I want to remind you that early elections are April 22nd through April 30th, with Election Day on May 4th. Thank you so much, and we hope we see you at the polls.